Founders Pick Podcast, Picks and Perspective with Chris Johnson. Palpable.
What's up, man?
Paradox.
Not much, man. Just holding it down best I can, you know.
Yeah, I feel you.
Man, it's good to see your face.
Hey, man, you too, man. Congratulations on the new house too. That's dope.
Oh man, thank you. It's a strange thing to be back home in an area that I have so many memories as a young person,
Right.
where I was much dumber and did a lot of crazy things. You know, it's kind of like let's try this again, but like not so crazy
Right.
as an adult.
That's pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool. You said you're in North. You're in North now. You up North?
Yeah, I'm in Chico, California.
Oh man. Okay.
So it's about 7 hours north of LA
Okay.
by
Okay.
car.
Cool.
Kind of central North Valley. And it's cool here. It's it's hotter and smaller. You know, it's a college town. It's a Chico
Okay.
University. It's all about this. You know, it's pretty much like the kind of central focus of the place. But
Yeah, I got it.
and you're in DC, right?
Well, Maryland, technically now.
Oh,
Yeah.
Maryland.
Yeah, but like
Okay.
right on the borderline. Like I'm right by the MGM, the casino. Like I
Okay.
come up like cul-de-sac, make a left, and I can see the casino. It's like, or I can make a right and be in DC. It's all the same thing. Like,
Oh,
so,
wow.
pretty cool, man. It's I mean, especially here right now where everything is going on. It's like, you know, I've been biking more. I think I did like 35 hours on the bike last month. It's like
Wow.
15 miles a day every day. And then sometimes I bike through the city, and going through the city now is like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's super crazy to go through the city and like see the White House barricaded, basically. It's like, they got this big barricade around the White House. And, you know, I wasn't out there for the protest because I say, I support the protest, but like protesting is a young man's sport. I can't, you know, I got kids. Like, you know what I'm saying? My niece and my little cousin went down there. And from what they told me, it was like, it got pretty wild at some points, like, especially towards when they implemented the curfew and all that stuff was going on. So I was like, you know, I got to be mindful of my actual house, you know, and protect my little ones and everything. So it's been crazy, man. It's been super crazy. My friend, you met Fred, harmonica player.
Yeah.
He went down. He actually filmed them when they painted the Black Lives Matter on the street. He was the part.
Yeah.
He was the film crew. He was the one that filmed it. Like one of his partners was like, that was her project. So he just went down there like 2:00 in the morning and they filmed the whole thing. And then they were like 2 days later, people were adding to it. They were trying to add in little pieces to it, like defund the police station, you know, all that stuff. So it's been interesting, man. Like, especially being in like like where, you know, seemingly is like one of the hubs for like, you know, everything. It's like, you know, pandemic, you know, when my daughter goes to school is like, has the biggest cases of coronavirus when she goes to high school. And it's like, you know, it just happens to be in the most heavily Hispanic populated community in DC, you know? So it's like, it just all these little ticks. That's like, man, that's crazy. Like, if you really sit back and think about it, like we're in the history books right now. Like this is the time where the history books will write about it 100 years, 50 years from now and be like, that actually happened, you know? So
That's true.
it's tough.
Man. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with me. That was because I was going to ask like what your experience has been through all of this, and where, I mean, obviously it's one experience to be dealing with the pandemic and being a active touring musician that survives on that. So and then to have there to be a racial tension and then and like just everything to be turned up on the heat has been turned up in all these different ways. You know, I mean, what is your experience first as a musician dealing with the pandemic, and then secondarily you know, since in the last few weeks, like what has changed for you?
So I was supposed to be on tour right now. Like our tour got pushed back to next year. We were supposed to be touring. This is Oddisee, good company. We were supposed to be touring from, this is festival season too. So our tour was supposed to go right in the festival season. We were pretty much supposed to be gone all summer and then doing Asia in the fall. I got that email like maybe like February, mid-February, like these are the dates. I got an email like in March, like those dates are gone. So it's like, what do you do? Like, and then I wasn't working as much locally because I was touring so much, but then we took a year off, just to kind of regroup and reshape and then work on the next day. Alone, I think I cut like 100 records for him. Whoa. His projects, all here. Like he came down, or I would go to New York and we would cut records like in whatever space we were working out of. So the records are still coming out. Like I had 2 records come out last month that I played on for different artists. But in terms of like me working from home or working in DC, I wasn't really playing a whole bunch because I was, people, when you tour, people don't know you're home. So it's like, you come back and it's like, you're like almost like a ghost. And it's like, oh, I saw Dennis. So I saw, so it's like, yeah, like the first question I always get asked is when you going back out? Not no more. Cause it's like, we don't know. You don't know. Yeah. The venues that we were playing, the festivals that we were playing, those are all like mid to larger scale events now. Like, so you're talking over like, you're going from like 2,000 to 25,000 people. Those events don't really exist right now. So like, what do we do, And everybody's kind of like gearing towards doing like virtual shows. I've been doing virtual shows with Frederick Garnet since March, every Sunday. We've been doing shows and it's been getting a lot of good publicity and a lot of good feedback. And in the last couple of weeks, we've been taking over DJ D-Nice's Instagram. So we've been using his platform to kind of push Fred's platform without having to change where we are, because we shoot it all from this location that's kind of sanctioned off and like we're all behind like plastic and, you can't really see people. They got a camera crew that comes in there and shoots everything. And it's like I think it's probably like a 20-man operation between the people who come in and out and shoot and the sound team and the band is like a 4-piece band. And we're all like, I'm directing the whole time. Like me and Fred are kind of like having conversations and I'm directing. But that's where I feel most comfortable anyway, like telling people what to do, kind of like have control of the stage aspect of it. So I'm calling shots, but it's a weird thing when you have a piece of plastic surrounding your station and you can't see people, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, we're all wearing in-ears. I'm yelling out stuff and sometimes they miss it and sometimes they don't catch it because it's so loud and you can't hear. So it's been creating a different dynamic musically, but I've been blessed enough to consistently keep playing every week. We have rehearsals like twice a week just to kind of go. We have like tech rehearsals just to make sure the audio stuff is straight. And on Fridays, we have like the real rehearsal where we figure out what we want to do for Sundays. And it's only 2 hours that we're playing, but that 2 hours kind of like, for me, it feels like I never stop playing. Like I'm always playing. Like I know something's coming up, and I think this is where we're kind of going too. So kind of getting in line first, trying to figure out the kinks has been like one of the pluses to doing this. As far as the racial tension, it's interesting. Like a lot of my friends are, it's a mixed group, and especially in DC because everybody's working, everybody's been working. A lot of my friends I've had for like the last 15 years in music, and they come from all different races, all different creeds. And to see that community kind of pull together has been like inspiring because like you don't know what's going to happen when they start this racial tension and everybody's like looking, and I told you I might have mentioned it to you maybe like a year ago. I went to Rwanda and I was in Rwanda teaching, and I remember to see like how people can be separated through propaganda was like evident, and I was like 20 years ago, and it's like it's happening again here. So it's like you see history kind of repeating itself, through the same tools. So to watch that divide, to watch people say, you're not going to do that, that's not going to happen this time, has been super empowering because it's like, it can be done. Like they show you how they can separate people and make people target, and like I said, I got kids, I got a son, I got daughters. Like I'm trying to figure out what's best for them, and how to navigate this time with them without having them feel like this sense of fear, but I'm scared, because like I just had a birthday, and it's like I remember the fear factor of where I come from changed over the last 20 years. Like 20 years ago, it was like you were lucky to make it out at 21. Now it's like age don't matter. Like they can come get you at any point just based on the color of your skin. So it becomes like this scary thing. But I believe in God. I think God is kind of moving through all of this, and he's gonna show himself to be, supreme at some point. We all have to like get in line with that too, and like realize that we're all the same. Like you cut me, I cut you, we both bleed red. We all come from the same place, and that's what it's really all about for me, and I try to instill that in my kids and my family and my friends, So.
Man, I can only imagine that thought process that you go through, not only to keep yourself safe. Now it's like, as a Black person in America right now, just like to be. I mean, I think prior to all this, obviously, it's similar in the way. I imagine it to be similar in the way that an average guy doesn't think a whole lot about certain things that the average woman thinks about when they leave the house, right? Because they're thinking about different kinds of protection, staying away from aggressors and rapists and the whole deal, not putting themselves in certain positions. But then, I believe, I mean, not being a Black person, I haven't had to think about those things.
Right.
On a daily basis. I think about it for my friends as I'm in contact with them, but things have been kind of coasting. We've been kind of coasting in a certain way. There's been underlying problems, but then, wow, now it's all in the forefront. And now it's like, it's even more of a thing. Cause it's like, I would say, at least from my perspective, I see on one side, like, a lot more allies coming in and a lot more people of all different creeds and colors doing their best to support Black Lives Matter. And I think that's really wonderful. And trying to educate other non-melanated, people to why Black Lives Matter is important to support, because the All Lives Matter thing always seems to come up, and everybody, it's a strange thing to try to like, it's a relatively noble cause at the same time. I think that once someone understands and can be an advocate for it, but at the same time, it's amplified that it's given the media, like you were saying, like can divide so easily, so quickly. But the voices that they're amplifying that are, white nationalists, alt-right, and all this stuff, they definitely feel like the minority, thankfully. Like, that they're giving voice to something that is like a small fraction, but they're outing themselves, and they feel emboldened to like step up and be like, yo, this is how I feel. And it's like, on one hand, I'm thankful that we now know that about you, but I'm also
like, oh, you.
Yeah, it's you.
Like, okay, cool. Now we know.
Yeah. It's on camera. It's on tape. We know what's going on with you. But it's also because people get emboldened, I think, to step out with their voice, then that's also maybe a higher risk because people are for more violence, for potentially more, I don't know, it's a kind of a catch-22, and that's kind of what I'm trying to sort out. My mind is like,
I think, and especially in like the DMV area, like, and what I've seen, because I went downtown a couple of days ago, and what I saw the military. Like they blocked off some of the streets. I saw them, and I saw the cops, but I didn't get this sense of like they were trying to like invoke fear in me, because I was driving through, and I was like, let me go look. I know the protests were kind of over, and it was like I didn't want to go down there doing the protests because outside of the whole racial thing, it's a pandemic going on. You shouldn't be around people. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that was my main thing. I was like, I'm not going into venues. Why am I going to a protest? I'm not doing it. Like, I can watch it on TV or whatever. So I went down and drove through, and I came to a road where I had to like turn. I couldn't go straight. The cops were like sitting right there, and I saw the guys in the military outfits and the fatigues. They didn't have weapons on them, You know, and a lot of times weapons I would make you kind of tense up. It just kind of standing there directing traffic. So I was like, you know, it's a shame that it felt like they had to be dispersed or like sent out. But, you know, at the same time, I get it. And like, you don't want it just to be like a uproar and then people just kind of like take over and like these riots are nonstop. They just can't stop them. And then they have to use like lethal force, you know? So it's like, you're trying to keep peace. The All Lives Matter, you know, people get real weird about that because it's like the answer to black lives. It's not saying that we're not saying that all lives don't matter. We're saying Black lives matter as well. You know, so you have to first off you have to put Black lives in all lives for it to be like a whole thing, and that's the problem. It hasn't been done. So like, how do we have that conversation? We have that conversation by opening people's eyes to saying that has never happened in the history of the United States. You know, so it becomes like this tricky thing. Like, luckily for me, like with my friends, I kind of know where they stand: white, Black, Asian, you know, Hispanic. I know where you know them, so you know where they stand. I'm not really concerned about them being like closet racist and saying something crazy behind my back to me, you know. Unless it's about my plan. You know, they can talk about my plan. But like as a person, you know, you want to have these genuine connections. Like when you meet people, like when we met, it was like a genuine connection. Like it wasn't, I mean, I didn't see race. I was like, yo, this dude seems like a cool guy. Like, we had dinner a couple times. Like, it's cool. Like, it's like, it becomes like this family, this familial thing. And it's like, that's what it's supposed to be about in totality, not color. Like, who are you cool with? Who do you vibe with? Those people you vibe with, who do you ride with? And that's, I think we get into this whole, in history, we've gotten to this whole, like, superiority thing because of race. And it's like, nobody should be over anybody. God's over everybody, you know? So, and he made all of us. So it's
Amen.
Weird. You know, so
yeah. No, I hear you. I mean, I'm, you know, my gig is to sniff out talent. You know, it's kind of like the deal and align myself. But my day gig is to look for the talented people doing interesting things and see if we can work together. Right. And it was like, oh, well, Dennis is so talented. Like, I just want to be on his team. Can we be on the same team? You know, and I feel like I'm on everybody's team anyway, you know, cause I'm on the human team. I'm pro-life in that way. Right. Like, I want to see everybody succeed. I'm pro-choice in other ways, but you know, like pro-life is a kind of a tricky term too, but really pro-life in the sense that, like, you know, I'm an advocate for seeing people succeed and find their dreams and do the thing that they want to do, even if it doesn't align with me, you know, it's fine. Like if we met and you're like, oh yeah, this is cool, but like, I see things differently. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I still wish you well, like whatever your thing is, we don't have to be on the same like guitar team or pickup team or pick team or any of that stuff. To want to wish you well and see your success, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's the main thing. Like, get on or get out the way, you know? Like, simple. Like, it's as simple as that. Like, if you with me, ride with me. If you're not, well wishes. Just go and do your thing, man. And there don't have to be any ill will towards anybody. Like, we weren't put here for that. It just, that's what happens sometimes when you put the wrong people in the wrong situation. It just becomes this tension. And it's like, just leave. Just leave the situation, go do something else with people that you go with, you know? Yeah. That's the way I kind of try to live at, you know. I always joke about working with certain musicians in the area, like this, and, you know, and like, I never get mad at people. Like, I'm not, you know me, I'm not getting mad at nobody. I was like, they're like, when you know when Dennis gets mad, because they won't see you again. Like, oh, like, yeah, like, we can work together on this one joint, but like, after that, I'm not calling you again.
Yeah.
That just means I don't have to be any way towards you. I'll still speak and we'll still, you know, keep it, you know, on a level, but we don't have to work together, you know. And I realized that when we work together, and, you know, it's no ill will towards anybody. It's just like, you know who you vibe with and you know who you roll with. But as a community, as a whole, we need to fix the problems as a whole. You can't have like one group saying one thing and one group saying one thing and nobody's willing to come to the table. Everybody has to be willing to come to the table and fix it, because that's the main thing. Fix it. Like, talking about it, protesting about it's cool. How are we gonna fix it? So
right.
That's my take. You know?
I hear that, and I think, like as we talked before, I think that sadly there's a lot of money in division, right? Like the people that are in power, that they're still riding, whether they realize it or not, are still riding with the systemic racism that helped start this country and help, perpetuate a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
They're fearful of some sort of uprising. I don't know what. I mean, I can't. The thing is that, I mean, we like that. It seems like science fiction to me, because I'm like, what's gonna hurt? It's like, it's the whole thing of like saying, saying Black Lives Matter doesn't take away from the fact that all lives matter, right? It doesn't take anything away from it. And, Black people having absolutely equal rights and their lives mattering doesn't take away from anything from white lives or, any other culture. It just puts them on a level playing field, which in some ways it has felt like we're almost there for a long time, but the almost isn't enough, and that's what I feel like this is about. It's almost isn't enough.
I agree.
You can't continue to go down this road of like, I mean, you almost got everything that we got. You almost, be happy with your, like, no, motherfucker, like, it's been like this too long. And that's because it's been almost, it's confused a lot of white people, I think. They're like, I mean, aren't there millionaire Black people? Aren't there super successful people? Look at Michael Jordan, look at Magic Johnson, look at, look at all these rappers and all this. Okay, but you're still not hearing it, you're still not hearing it. So it's a strange thing, and it's a strange thing for me too, because like, as a white young person, like almost all my idols were Black, like growing up. Like, I mean, not all, but like a lot. Like I remember in junior high, my mom, I mean, I was super into MC Hammer and like whatever the pop, Young MC and like the pop stuff at the time, right? Like,
it makes sense now. No,
yeah, right. You're like, wait, what? Okay, but like, because I was raised a Christian, raised in church, and like MC Hammer was like as a junior high kid, my mom was like taking me to the Christian music video store and was like, yo, you can buy music here. But I was like, yeah, but MC Hammer's on TV, I don't know any of ththese other people, And so and he always had like one like song about God on every album, it seemed like, and so like I could point to that and show my mom like, hey, it's cool, right? Like, he dances, I want to dance, like, and it was, and I remember at one point, like, I don't even remember how it came up, but like, she said something, and I was like, man, I just wish I was Black. I just wish.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I wanted, because I thought I was like, I just don't feel like I fit in. Like, I was in a small town, and everybody listened to country music and drove pickup trucks, and all I wanted to do was listen to hip hop and dance, and it was like the early days, and so it was a strange thing. So like, there's a part of me, I don't know. I mean, I joked around that I feel like in a previous life maybe I was Black or something. I don't know, like if that's even a real thing, but I just feel a kinship, and I've always had good friends, and I've always felt like like endeared to the culture in a way, and I think maybe also because I feel empathic towards people in general, that I felt empathic and empathy towards the struggle also, but that being
it's genuine.
aside,
It's genuine. It's not like I'm doing this because I have to vibe. It's like, I actually genuinely care about these people. Not these people like these Blacks, but like I care about these people, whoever I'm friends with, whoever I decide to become friends with. I genuinely care about them and their well-being, and their families and their friends and whatever is impacting them in their lives. So I get that. I get that vibe. Michael Che put out this documentary, or this comedy special that Kevin Hart been showing on his Instagram page. He has this whole joke about like how like people are fighting for certain rights. He's like, gays are fighting for equal rights. He's like, imagine that they're fighting for equal rights and we're just fighting for civil, like just to be civil.
Right.
It's like just treat me nicely. You know what I'm saying? Like that's crazy. It's like, but it's still happening, you know. So
I saw that clip, and he says he's like Black Lives Matter. We're just asking for it to matter.
Right.
I mean, like if that's not okay, is it okay to say Black lives exist? Like, you know, it's like it was this weird moment where, yeah, it's like one of my favorite things. I don't know who said it, but it was like, okay, all right, for all you that don't understand Black Lives Matter, on July 4th, I'm gonna be like, all countries matter. Are you gonna be okay with that? Do you understand that? Like, you know, your girlfriend asks you, "Do you love me?" I'm like, well, baby, I love everybody. Like, it's like that's not how this works. You know, it's like a strange, disparaging thing, but I think that sadly enough, it's a part of the attempt to divide us, right? Because if you and I or anybody for that matter are at each other's throats about it, and we can't see eye to eye, we can't forgive and understand differences of opinion and points of view, then we're not policing the police, and then we're not policing the government, and we're not holding them accountable to the job that they signed up for, which was to be public servants.
Exactly.
Right. And to be voices for the people. Mm-hmm. And so there's a thing that kind of we got reversed on. We got like taken in, and now they're like, yo, like you have to do the things that we're saying. We're like, but there's more of us than you, and so like you need to.
Right. And you work for us. Like technically, you got put in a position of power because of a vote that we put in. We casted the vote, and you got put in a position to help improve our overall lives. And it becomes like this, oh, no, I don't work for you. Like, I'm a public servant, but that doesn't really mean I serve the public. Like, I make public policies. That's what it means. That's what it kind of comes off like. I'll make the policies to make the world turn. It's like, yeah, but the world turns because of the people in it. You know, it's a tricky thing, man. It's so tricky, you know. So when people actually get it, it's like, it's cool. I think we just need everybody to kind of get that light bulb switched in their head and get, you know, once that happens and you get the people, like I pulled up this post a couple of days ago when we voted. I was like, you gotta vote. You gotta vote. Like if you don't vote, all this stuff doesn't matter. Like, you know, you want people in power that are gonna make a position for you, vote that person in. If the person who was in there wasn't doing their job, get them up out of there. You know, and it's super simple. Happens in every other thing that's going on, you know, like if you got a team captain, your team captain ain't leading the team, he's no longer the team captain. What's the difference? You know, like we got all these team captains that are like playing for their own teams. It's like they got a captain's team, and then we just on the side like, well, you know, what's up? So get the team captains out of there, you know. And it starts with the head, with the presidency. Get them up out of there. You know, like your dream. Yeah, you got to go. You got to go.
I'm ready for that day. I'm ready for that. I'll be, and you know, and I can't even like. I'm so like easily like, I would love to say a bunch of bad things about him, you know, and I have said a few, but like not much public, you know, but like it's easy to get mad at the one that's provoking you, and then I have to stop and remember, oh, it's an intentional like effort to provoke me, to provoke all of us.
Yeah.
And again, and if we're mad at like his political theater, which it's so easy, man, because every day he says something stupid. He does another crazy thing, and we're like, you know, like he wants all of us to want to blow up that White House. Like there's something there, you know. Meanwhile, in that process, he's provoking the marginal, you know, backwoods, uneducated, you know, people that need love and need attention too. I mean, like of all the people, they need the most love and the most attention because they don't get it, and probably they don't get it because they weren't paid attention to, and they weren't shown a good example of how to be in the world. So it's that's a tough one too, because like the first thing is like, oh yeah, well anybody that is following Trump, unfollow me right now, you know, like I see that all over, and I'm like, okay, well that puts you further into your own bubble, real quick, you know. Like
I would say anybody that's following Trump, that's your bag, but like you got to understand the David Copperfield aspect of it all. Like he's put there so they could pass all these other policies under the bridge. So he's making all this crazy stuff happen. He's saying all this crazy stuff. And then if you look at the fine print, it's like, oh, they passed this bill today. And it's like, wait a minute, like you're not even paying attention to the policies that are getting put in place because he's making all this rhetoric on Twitter. Like, it's Twitter. Like, Twitter was made for that. So like, get out of that theater part, like you said, and like really get into the policies. And like, if you want to make change, you got to be on the forefront of those policies. When they, I mean, you can go to all those policy hearings. They're open to the public. I mean, I can't go now, but like you can watch them on like C-SPAN or something. You know, and if something not right, you could send a letter to your governor or whoever your state official is, and like complain. Make a petition. Complain. I think complaining and like having a voice and using your voice is how you're going to evoke change. Saying Trump is the problem. I mean, before Obama, we had Bush for two terms.
Yeah.
And before that, we had. And it's just like there's never been a history of like the perfect president. Like, but the president also is like a symbol more than anything else at this point. Like he's a symbol, and whoever he or she is, they're put in place to kind of like store the order while these policies get passed. And the administration is sitting in like all these policies that we don't even know about as people because we're so caught up on what he said on Twitter. Nah, I'm cool on that. I don't even follow. I don't even go on Twitter. I'm like all that stuff is for the birds, man. Like, when I remember when he was going up against Hillary Clinton in the debates, and I remember I was somewhere watching. I was like, he gonna win, just because he was tripping her up. He wasn't saying nothing crazy. Every time she said something, he just said something crazy to her, and she just like you could just see her getting red. It's like he gonna win because people don't want her. They already don't want her. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
She can't even keep it together with this seeming clown dude. Like she can't even keep it together. How's she gonna run the country? Wasn't the question? The question was how is he gonna run the country? They were like, how is she gonna run the country? She can't even keep it together. And it's like she gonna lose. I was like, and then she lost. It's like, So at the root of it is togetherness, right? Like we all have to be together, and I don't think that's ever happened in the history of the United States. Like, as far as I can remember, like what I was taught in history, I mean, you can go downtown right now and they have two history buildings about the same history, same timeline that are separated. Black history, American history, across the street from each other. You know what I'm saying? Wow. I remember when they built the Black History Museum, it was symbolic in that it was like, it's a bronze building. All the Smithsonian buildings are marble, like white marble. This building is bronze and it stands out and it's right across the street from the History Museum, from the American Museum. I was like, that was on purpose because it's like, you can't overlook us. You know what I'm saying? Like you can go into that museum, but when you come out, you're going to see, wait a minute, I left out a whole piece of history here. It's like African-American, says it in the title, African-American History Museum, American History Museum. Why aren't they together? Because they coincide. Like one didn't happen without the other. You know what I'm saying? So we gotta get that together first, I think.
Yeah. Well, I hear you, and I agree that like I can't remember a time that was like where it felt like the country was together on much of anything.
Right.
But I will say on a local level, like, and this is kind of like, a local level, and again, this is me as a white person walking through the world, not necessarily having your outlook around it, but I have seen and felt more connected on a local level around. I feel like communities tend, when you know somebody, you see somebody regular, like it tears down any ideas you might have had, and about the neighborhood or the culture, any of that stuff. I think a lot of people really do just want to help other people out because they need help too.
Sure.
The general idea or feeling is of one of humanity, but then we let people talk in our ear through the media or something, and that puts a couple of ideas, and then now 3 people in the area have this concept and they want to go online and express it,
right?
And then that creates a whole nother thing, and that further divide. So like you're saying, looking for the ways in which we can come together versus always looking at, well, you know what, we're different in all these ways. Well,
yeah.
Fine. Like diversity is great. Like if it was all the same, man, that would be so boring.
Yeah, you know? Exactly. Like we were put here for specific purposes, but everybody wasn't put here for the same thing. You know, like all put here to have a singular purpose, and that purpose helps other purposes. Like, but if you get in the way of that, nobody helps anybody. We always stay divided. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember I was on tour maybe like a couple years ago, and we had a break in Berlin. Like, I was out with Oddisee, but it was super cool to be in Berlin at that time because I remember like 10 of my friends from this area were also in Berlin for different things. You know, they were all like some touring on stuff, and we decided to come together and have this dinner with like our friends. It's like 20 people at this dinner, randomly in Berlin one night. You know, it's like, this is what it's about though. Like this, we start together, we branch out, we share our ideas with the world, and then we come back together, and you know, we kind of like recap, or like we kind of rediscover each other, but it's all in love. Like that dinner was like, it was like, yo, I remember when we started playing like little pubs for $40 here and there. Now everybody's out getting on planes and flying across the world playing music, and it's through music that we're able to like share this gift that we got from God, you know, and to have that commonality and like to have that place and to share it in that setting was like, I remember sitting there being like, yo, this is crazy, because like I would have never thought that would have happened, you know. Like I remember being like, I want to tour, but like you never know how you're gonna get like point A to point B until you actually like stop doing point A, you know. It's like I gotta stop doing something, and like to have that time where we could sit around and share ideas. Nobody had the same opinion. Like we start a conversation. It's people from all different works. It's Germans there, it's people from France there, it's like Americans there, and we can have a conversation. And it don't end in an uproar with people like flipping the table over and trying to fight and kill each other. It's like, oh, you feel like that? That's cool. I feel like this, and this is why. And then you find a common ground. It don't have to be like you agree with me or I agree with you, but you understand me now. You understand where I'm coming from. And I think as the world turns, we need to have a communal table sit down like that. Like everybody, it's impossible, right? But like that would be the easiest fix, because once you sit down with somebody, you break bread with them, you realize you're not much different from them anyway. You know? No. So it's like, I'm not better, I'm not worse. We're just different. And it's okay to be different. You know what I'm saying? Like we can be different, you know? So that's my take on it, man. It's a trying time though, you know? Like,
yeah.
You know,
well, I heard you. I mean, you mentioned your faith in God a few times, and I'm curious about that, because I know. I mean, you one of your main gigs is with Oddisee, and he's a Muslim, right?
Yeah, he's a Muslim.
And you. So where does your faith come from? Is it divulged from a Muslim or a Christian background, and how does that work? I mean, obviously you're kind of seem like a bit of a universalist. I mean, you're open to all these different ideas and everything, but for you personally, how does that, your faith, wherever it comes from, square with like working with Oddisee in that way?
So I didn't grow up in church, right? Like I grew up with parents that were like, they said they were Christian, but we went to church like on Easter. You know, I didn't really get into church and stuff until like I started working for churches. And then I started seeing the systems in church, like some of the churches anyway, like they have like it's a system for musicians especially. And then, so I always kind of like rode the line of like being spiritual more than religious, because I felt like organized religion was kind of put in place to kind of keep people in place. But if you are spiritual, like that's just your connection with God and the things that you do to keep connecting with God. And that's just like being good to others, you know, like you got the angel and the devil on your shoulder. You know, that's your conscience, but your conscience comes from God. So, you know, it's like I always kind of like try to ride the line of like knowing that I was here to serve a greater good, you know, and to help people. So that's why I always like, I think that you can have a religious experience or a spiritual experience just by giving somebody $1 on the street. You see them struggling, they ask you for some money, you got it. Like, I'm supposed to give it to you. Like, that would be most Christ-like in that regard. Like, give it off my back type vibe. And it's like, because regardless of what the person uses it for, my job is to give. If I have it, like, and hopefully, and through my giving, you see the righteousness in that, and you want to do better for yourself. And then it just becomes like this cycle, So working with Amir, religion doesn't come up a lot because he's not. While he is super religious and he believes, and he has a firm thumbprint on his religion, he doesn't like try to push it down your throat. Like, he's not like, I'm Muslim, you got to be Muslim to be in my band. It's nothing like that.
Sure.
It's more or less like, I'm your friend. Like, we're friends. If you ask me something about my religion, I will gladly tell you about it. But, like, I'm not going to force feed you my religion because we decided to work together. So I never had like this sense of like, I had to convert to Islam or, and it comes up in certain points where like Ramadan, when he can't eat, if we're on tour, he can't do certain things. Like, and it just, you see it kind of physically affect him because he had to go out and do like 90-minute shows. And then they had to like plan his dinner around what he's doing, and everybody else is just like, oh, well, we can eat now. It's like, it's cool.
Yeah.
So other than, and I think the one time I've seen it, or the few times I've seen it like be like a really bad thing for him, especially, is coming back into the country after like doing like a 3, 4, 5, 6 week tour. And his name is Amir Muhammad. So regardless of where he comes in at, he gets flagged every time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, yo, get global entry, bro. He's like, it's not gonna matter. My name's Amir Muhammad. Like, I've seen him get flagged in every country I've seen him get flagged in Dubai. Like, I've seen him get flagged. We went to Asia like 2 years ago. I seen him get flagged in Asia. Always coming back to JFK. He always gets flagged in JFK. It almost become like a running joke. Like, we come in at JFK, be like, all right, man, see you in 2 hours. Like, because we know we're not going to be able to see him just because of his name. They don't know anything about him, just his name. So it's a weird dynamic. Like, the band Good Company, we're all Black guys. Everybody in the band is Black. Most of the guys are from DC. Even if they don't live here anymore, like Olivier lives in Berlin now. He's out. Ralph lives in Pennsylvania, and Rich just moved to Philadelphia. And we talk all the time. It's like we're like brothers. Seriously, we WhatsApp, house party, whatever you want to get on and talk. And to hear the stories about what's happening in people's respective areas, is like, and then to talk to, and Amir's in New York, so he's in like one of the worst off places, And
right.
I remember we had our first conversation that we had on like one of those video chat apps. It's like, dude, how's it going in New York, man? I'm seeing all these crazy reports. He was like, I didn't know how bad people could be to each other until this pandemic, especially to the point where he wants to move. He's like, I'm leaving. He's like, I'm out. I can't be here anymore. And I was like, because I was like, it's not because he's a Muslim. It's just because he's Black. Like, they don't see Muslim, People don't even, I think a lot of times when they hear Oddisee, they don't even think that he is a Muslim. They just think he's like this dope rapper, producer dude. They're not looking at his name. That's why I think he always says it when he does shows. He's like, my name's Oddisee, AKA Amir Muhammad, his whole Muslim name. He says the whole thing. Because it's like, I need you guys to know, like, I'm proud of where I come from. I'm proud of what my dad is. I'm also from DC. My mom is from DC. So like, I'm both. I'm American and I'm Sudanese and I'm Muslim. So it's like, but to watch, to hear him say that about the city that he's lived in for the last 10 years, is like, it took something like this for people to kind of like pull that veil down. And it's like, that's crazy. Like, to me, it's like, because he chose to move there. Like, my reason for not going to New York was basically purely on playing. I was like, I don't want to go up there and have to prove myself every night to play people like for $50. I don't want to do that. It's like, I want to go up there, make my little imprint, make my friends, get up out of there, go play, come back home. He was like, nah, I feel like I need to get out of DC because I'm stagnant. And then 10 years later, he's like, I need to get out of New York because they might kill me. Just because I'm Black. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's crazy, So the whole dynamic of like working with a Muslim or working with somebody who has like Muslim faith hasn't been an issue ever. Like it's never been a thing where it's never really come up. I can honestly say that. Like it's never been like we had a fork in the road and he had to like decide he picked the people that he felt would best put out his sound. Like the people that he worked with, he felt like those people would be able to take that sound and take it to another level. Had nothing to do with race, just had to do with ability and talent. And, you know, the last part is just being able to work with those people. Like he chose people that worked together for a series of time, like people he worked with for years. Me and the drummer John had been playing together for like years before. So we have a relationship between drum and bass, you know, it's kind of essential. He wanted to build a nucleus around that, you know, and then when I became like the musical director for him specifically, it became like this thing where we're all brothers, but there needs to be a system in place because as brothers, we all talk over each other. It's like nobody has a say. So everything becomes like this mess. Like I used to say our shows were like jam band sessions on stage because everybody just kind of playing whatever they want. Like, you know the music, you know the layout of the music, but you're just playing whatever you want. I'm like, that's not going to work to go to the next level. Like, we can't get to the next level of showmanship if everybody's just playing what they want at all times. But it took a band of brothers, I think, to realize that you need somebody to kind of like steer the ship and to be cool with it, you know. And when I got picked, it was like, you know, it wasn't about where I come from or like me being from Southeast DC, all that stuff. It was based on my resume, like who I worked for before, what I was doing for those people before. So you take out all the angst of like somebody being picked because you like them more. It's just based on what they do and what they've been doing. And I think that's been the basis of our relationship for that particular situation. If you take out everything else, like the friendships and the time, it's like, who does what well? Put them in that position. And let's build, you know? So it's never been a thing about race with Amir. I can't think of anything outside of what we've seen him go through, like coming back to the United States. And sometimes some of us go through it too. Like, I think I have like one of the most plain names out of everybody. So like, I rarely ever get flagged. I also have pre-TSA and global entry. I'm like, you're not gonna get me. Like I'm getting, you know what I'm saying? I took care of all that stuff for a long time. I was like, I know what the lines look like to get stopped. So I'm like, if I got all these passes, I ain't gotta worry about that. So, you know, but yeah, I hope that answers your question.
No, it does. Yeah, absolutely, man. I think, well, and really the reason for asking is just, I like hearing about artists' faith and how that squares with their life. Mm-hmm. It sounds like part of your faith really does actually help you to stay centered because it sounds like it's a central part of your how you perceive the world and how you want to interact with the world. Mm-hmm. You mentioned the, you know, being Christ-like, like taking those tenets and trying to infuse your life with them so that you can then be that person that is there to help others, right? Yeah. And Amir seems, the bit that I've been able to interact with him and you know, listening to his lyrics, he seems like the same person. Seems like he has the same goals in life, is to make art and be of service to the world. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think it's great to hear that there's no rub religious wise or belief wise, that you guys work together because you're the right people to do the job, and you appreciate each other's work. And I mean, man, what a crazy thing though. That's what I was thinking, is actually I was curious about, like, how tough is it for him to travel? And you just answered that, like, it's we went not always easy.
We went to maybe like the last tour we did. We were leaving Bangkok. I remember because I bought one of those straw hats, and I was like, it's kind of crazy because I bought a straw hat and I bought a mask because we were in China, and I looked at the weather on the weather app on my phone, and it said it basically said you should wear a mask. It's like the air is just filthy over there. So me and Ralph went out one time in Bangkok. I found a little $2 mask that I still wear now. Like, and I didn't wear it when I came back home. And it's like, it's crazy now. Everywhere you go, you got to have on a mask. Like, you can't even go into places without a mask. So it was like, was that like hindsight? Did I kind of like, you know what I'm saying? But we're leaving Bangkok and we're going to, I think we're going back to China. Because we started in Shanghai, we went to Bangkok, and we went back to Beijing. We get to Beijing, and they flagged him. Like, we were all walking in one line, and then somebody came and got him, and was like, "Oh, show us your passport," kind of vibe. And then we're going right, and they took him left. And it's like the people who were handling us had to go with him because they didn't know what was going on. They was like, "Why y'all, pressing him out a little bit like that?" And it was like he came back like 30 minutes later. It was like, it was my name. It was like, what? Like, he's like, every time. So it's like, it's things like that. It's like, what do you think he's going to do? Like, I mean, but you see that Muhammad on a plane list is like, they don't have a good history, like, especially recently with names like Muhammad and, like Muslim names, they just kind of tense up naturally. And this dude was born here. Like, he's American, so it's like, it's rough, man.
I mean, that's a perfect example of disinformation and blacklisting a culture and a religion. It's like, so and that's why it's really, I think we have to be really careful in how we speak about people and how we speak about and how we, inadvertently, I think that after 9/11, I think that there was a lot of, how do I say it? Like unintentional, like racism, because everybody was so fearful. A lot of average people were very fearful. They're like, oh, we're just now really learning about Islam through a catastrophe. And because most of the Christian Western world was like, whatever, like, don't even have it in our mind. All of a sudden, oh wait, there's a thing called caliphate. There's like a holy war. What is going? And are they all this way? Is that religion that way? What am I supposed to believe? And then, but we somehow allowed it to like be embedded into like the Western culture now just has an absolute fear, and it's just spread to every other Westernized area. And it's like, but it's a weird common fear, and it's like if we were stopping every black person right now because Black Lives Matter was seen as a terrorist organization, which some people want to equate it with that, which is bullshit. Yeah. But if we were doing that, that would be mind blowing. But to stop every person that has the name Muhammad or something that is Islamic, we're like, well, we're just trying to keep things safe, so it's cool.
Yeah. And we're not too far from it technically, because like, what's stopping them from saying, okay, you put Black Lives Matter on your Instagram page, we're gonna get you now. We're gonna like put a marker on you. Because I honestly think they did. I think they did. We don't know. They use algorithms now. We don't know what, like you just don't see it anymore. So like, you put that hashtag up, that algorithm goes in, your name goes into a box. And then when they hit that switch and say, okay, go grab these people, your name is already kind of separated for one of the people who would support of what they would now call a terrorist group. So it's like, I know how to go get them, put them in concentration camps, and we can deal with them whenever. It's such a weird time to be an American, man. It's such a weird time,
yeah, man, because you have president saying like the Antifa is he wants to label Antifa as a terrorist organization. That they're the enemy, and which is such a weird thing to do, anti-fascism, right, is like what we're talking about, and but because they've been able to, and I don't, to be honest, like it doesn't even feel like there's actually an Antifa movement. I feel like there's probably a handful of people out there that are doing it, but I don't know any of them. I think and I want to say that because I mean, I'm sure there's some extremists out there, but it's easy. It's just like it's much in the same way that if you say, oh, it's this group in the Middle East right now that everybody needs to be it's ISIS now or whatever it is. Like, okay, but that's a lot of it's on ungrounded information, and like the whole scenario, and there's a lot of kind of like disparaging that whole media bias thing where they say, okay, if they repeat something that isn't true, or just even like a grain of sand of it is true, but they blow it up. You say it enough times, then you have enough people that just like are programmed saying that, oh, there's this group out there that is Antifa, but they're not connecting it to anti-fascism, and the anti-fascism is like the thing that kind of America is kind of built on, like that we're out supposedly policing the world so that other governments don't become fascist. That we try to we're supposed to be keeping things democratic, and this weird freedom place, but in trying to police that scenario, we've elected a person that is really close to being fascist, like where are we gonna draw the line? And that guy saying, oh, now they're, if you're, and you're right, like it's like the Black Lives Matter hashtag is probably one of the ways that they put you on a list. If you're supporting that, and if you're supporting the protest, then you've been flagged as somebody that could be a dissenter and could oppose the current regime.
Exactly. And it just makes it easier for them to go out and grab them when they feel like, I remember being in Rwanda and like going through the history, like the Holocaust Museum in Rwanda, and like the first 30 minutes of it is the propaganda, how they set it up, and then they just decided one day, oh, the president's gone, it's gonna happen today. Like the group that started the whole thing, they just decided one day they were like, this is the day, and then they just implemented it, and then you look 30 days later, have a million people are gone. Like God, it's like, and then they just said, "Oh, we were wrong. Sorry." It's like, wait a minute, what? Like, but that's all it took was like that planning of propaganda. Like, it's just profiling racism. Like you're just saying you're better than them because of this. You're better than them because of that. Like, I couldn't believe some of the stuff I was reading when I was walking through that museum. It was like, if you had like 2 cows and like a goat, you were better than this person. And
whoa.
Like, so it's classism, it's racism, it's classism, and it's like you had all these isms that we weren't put here for. Like, you take out money, you take out the need for greed, none of that stuff matters. Everybody just walking the earth, just doing their thing. It's like, oh man. So when I started seeing it like over here, it's like they're doing the same thing. They just kind of like slowly building, and then you got the president who can't, he seems like a kid that can't wait. Like he's like, it's Christmas Eve, I need to open this present now. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
He keeps like having these little mouth farts because he can't stop himself from being like, this is about to happen, and it's like, he's doing that for a system. That's not just him. He's a part of a system, so it's like, we gotta uproot that system and get him up out of here, man. It's tough.
It's interesting too. I when all this started kind of going down a couple weeks ago, so a friend of mine turned me on to a book that I'm in the middle of reading, and it's called My Grandmother's Hands, by I forget his last name, but his first name is Resma. Okay. But if you look up My Grandmother's Hands, and he's a healer and a psychotherapist and just an all around really well educated man, Black man, that is trying to do his best to educate people on where this trauma, this racialized trauma, comes from ultimately, and what's underneath a lot of what we're experiencing now. And this was released in 2017, which was a whole other slew of unarmed Black people being killed in 2017. It's like, which, it's crazy to think that everything that was being said. I watched a bunch of podcasts in 2017 with Joe Rogan and different people, and they're all it feels like it's right now. It feels like it happened, and it's sad that we're still in that thing. But one of the things he does is he talks about he kind of goes back and says, okay, before white body, and he uses the term white bodies, black bodies, police bodies, because he really wants to drive home that the trauma isn't just a mental thing that we've been, that's happened to us, but that it's that they know through epigenetics that trauma is passed down through DNA.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so even if you personally weren't traumatized in some catastrophic way in this lifetime, anywhere along the lines in your history, that if it happened, that there's a piece of it in you, right? And so they talk about how before white bodies were traumatizing and enslaving black bodies, that white bodies were doing it to other white bodies all throughout Europe, right? And if you look in the medieval times and all the different torture devices, and it was class war. It was like if you were poor and you were outside of the small circle of kings and queens and if you weren't in the inner circle, then you were subject to being labeled a witch or a heretic or any type of thing, and they would find a way to destroy your body and traumatize your body through pulling it apart with horses, all these different torture devices, right? And they talk about that before the white bodies started doing it to the black bodies, that we actually brought that trauma with us to this land, and so it's like not something in a way that was initially just aimed at black bodies, but it got shifted to black bodies at some point, and in the process of trying to kind of secure or shifting it to where the black bodies were the enemy, they encouraged the poor white folk by giving them a little bit of land and giving them a one-up position from the slaves, the indentured servants, the stuff that they had brought over from Africa. That they had they incited this little thing. They said, okay, well, you poor white people, I mean, look at you now you got some land, so you're one up. And so now you're better. And meanwhile, they'd never meant for the poor white people to actually come up. They're just looking to take the heat off of them.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah.
And so we're still playing that out now. That's still a thing, right? Like, and you see it especially with the Trump followers. Mm-hmm. You see, like they go, you see a lot of poor people all around the country, like, that's my president, and it's like, well, okay, but he doesn't represent you at all. So but because you share a skin tone with him, I mean, I somehow like, I don't know. It's still a little bit science fiction to me, but I'm starting to understand it through trying to unravel the history around how we got to this place, and seeing how that even though these poor white people haven't, or lower class white people haven't had the same experience as black bodies through the year, there is a history of trauma in that in the poor white lineage, right? And that's and the only way that they talk about like a dirty pain and a clean pain, like they talk in this book, right? Resma says, like, your dirty pain comes from engaging your trauma and not actually facing it, but trying to offload it. And so we offload our trauma into somebody else's body through like denial and through trying to not take the blame. And that's what we continue to perpetuate. It's primarily what we perpetuate. But clean pain is when we brush up against that trauma and we face it and we go, oh, interesting, like I played a part in this, and we get personally responsible for our thing. And I don't know. I forget exactly what you said that got me going on that, but it's an interesting place of education for myself. It's in this moment.
Yeah,
you know?
It's all based around responsibility too, in a sense. Like once you feel responsible, you'll also feel responsible for change. Like, and I think that's important. Like we all have to feel a sense of responsibility to act and to effectively make change happen. If we all don't feel that we have a part to play, it's easy for people to sit down and be like, oh, yeah, y'all figure that out. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody has to get their hands in the dirt and like figure it out. Like plant that seed, like plant those seeds, like and into like as a group all this keep happening because you're not breaking the chain at that point. Because you're always gonna have like one or two people be like, oh no, I ain't gotta do that. Everybody has to do it. Everybody has to get in there. Whatever part you can play, you have to play it, and it can be gargantuan or it can be minute. You just have to play your part. Your part matters, you know what I'm saying? And that if you're gonna say all lives matter, then all parts matter. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody has a part to play in that. And some of it is just realizing that your lineage was wrong. Like, and being able to say like, I understand that and I empathize with that. Like, I'm not asking you, like, I'm not asking anybody I know, like, I got, white friends and other stuff. I'm not asking them to be apologizing for their great grandparents. They ain't know them. Why would they apologize for somebody they didn't know, And with somebody, they didn't even come up. But, like, you just have to understand what it did and be empathetic to that. And that's the start, you know what I'm saying? So, but race is always going to be a thing until it's not, so.
Yeah. Well, I'll say, I want to point us back towards music a little bit because you mentioned early on that you said that you like been working like over like 100 albums or something. Like, can you give me some insight into some of the projects? I mean, maybe you can't talk about all of them, but
sure. Well, Amir Oddisee has been working on music for the last year and a half for other artists. He's he was in a place where we did the live record with the last record that he had come out on the label that he's on currently. And I think we recorded 60 shows of that tour. We did 190 shows and we recorded 60. And of that 60, I kind of curated this live album, right? So that was the last record that officially, that record got him out of his contract with his company.
Got it.
But now he wanted to go back and kind of like rethink what he wanted to do. So he started producing other artists and working with other artists. So in that, he goes to his team of people that he worked with when he works on records. And I can't give you a specific number. I just know in the past year and a half, it's been over 100 songs because he just sends me stuff. He'll send me stuff and be like, you want to tell me who it's for? I don't even ask. I'm just like, send me stuff, especially when the pandemic, I'm like, yo, just send me everything. I'll just play on anything. I don't care. I need something to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, I always joke about like, when the pandemic hit, I became both a kindergarten teacher and a high school counselor. It's like, because I got them both and I got to like, navigate that and all that stuff. It's been cool, but it's like, I joke about it all the time. But so he been sending me stuff. I worked on some stuff for Jesse and Chris Turner because Jesse's still working on music. Jesse is Jesse. He's a very intricate brother. Like he's one of my oldest friends at this point. Super cool guy, but he got so many things going in so many different directions. And we talk about music all the time. And he'll just send me like some stuff to play on from time to time. I'll play on some stuff and send it back to him. I'll just ask him like, yo, what are you working on, bro? Like I need you to send me. I need to figure out what you're doing with your music stuff because he's acting and he's modeling. And I'm like, dude, what about the music? Like you've been talking for like years, bro. Like what's happening? So working on stuff with him. He worked on a project that came out last year for this artist. Can't remember her name, but I played on one or two cuts of her record. Fred Yane is also working on a record, but I've been mostly arranging for his stuff. Like I do all the like primary arranging for his stuff. I do all the primary arranging for Oddisee stuff too, especially the live setting. I do a lot of the arranging for that. So most of it's Oddisee stuff, really. Like it's just I played on another record. My friend is an artist named Saint Ezekiel. He had a record come out last month. I played on his record. It's on iTunes and all that stuff now. I'll send you the links and all that stuff. You can post it whenever you want.
Sure.
Who's the other artist? Man, I gotta look at my computer. It's just so much stuff in here. I'm working with this cat named Julian Owens. This singer, like an R&B singer. I've known him for a long time. He's working on a project. I just played on like 7 or 8 of his songs. It's just like at this point, I'm just like send me stuff. I got time. I'll lay like 2 or 3 bass tracks per song. You can take them, cut them up however you want to do them, and you know that's been my process for everybody. It's just like if I'm working, it's just like I just want to be able to have the body of work that represents me most, you know, like and be proud of that, you know. So I know Oddisee for sure is releasing a record either later this year or next year. I haven't heard the final, but I got a call from the keyboard player in the band because he got the pre-mastered, and he just called me. He was like, "Yo, something's wrong with you." I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Yo, I heard the record, bro." I was like, "All right, I'm doing what I always do in the record." Like I think the cool part about working with Amir is that he'll have an idea what he wants the bass to do or what he wants on bass, but I always lay like 5 or 6 bass tracks per song, and he just keeps it all. Like it's all on the record. I'm like, dude, I did that so you can like space it out or like. He's like, no, we using all of that. I'm like, but then when you hear it, it's like, oh, I get what he's trying to do. Like I didn't hear like that. I heard it in spaces, and he just kind of keeps it all like a gumbo. So I guess Ralph had heard that and was like, I heard like he talked about 2 or 3 songs in particular. He named them, and I was like, I don't even remember playing it. Like it's so much stuff. I'm not holding on to it. I'm doing it and then sending it back. Send me more stuff. Send me more. You know,
right.
I got all these ideas I'm kind of sitting on. So like, the more you send me, the better it becomes. You know, to me at least. You know, so I know he's releasing a record this year. I don't know about Jesse so much. Fred is in a place where he's about to do these quarantine sessions where we've been doing these shows, these live shows, but he hasn't been recording them. So now he's going to start recording the quarantine shows and then take them, get them edited, or get an engineer on them to get them engineered and figure out what he's going to do with the releases. But I wrote a lot of stuff for Fred. Like I wrote a lot of stuff in the last 2 years for Fred, with the idea that his record was going to come out soon. You know, and he's been kind of like, I think he's a perfectionist in that like he wants it to be like the right amount of songs, the right type of songs, so that when it comes out, it's like I'm hitting on all cylinders. I'm like, dude, just put it out. Just put it out. Like I can keep coming up with stuff, but then everything that I come up with is new is gonna replace the stuff that we already did. It's like you're never gonna put out the old stuff because it's always gonna be new stuff coming in. So like this, you know, I'm really proud of a couple songs that I wrote for him in the last couple months. One of them we call it Zeke because I got the sample from a friend of mine, my friend Ezekiel, who plays guitar, and I built the song around his sample, and it was not what he expected, and I got challenged by my friend. I don't know if you remember my guy Biscuit, the drummer, Biscuit Bonner.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Biscuit challenged me to write a song based on something that he heard Isaiah Sharkey do, and I was like, I can do that. I can write a song like that. It was like this classic R&B kind of vibe, but it had all these like I call them like these breaks where, you know, like in Tina Turner's old songs, she would be in 4/4 and they would just switch to 5/4 and go on and come back off of it. And it's just like every other time they would do it, it's like it never felt like it left 4. But you like as a musician, you know, you're like, wait a minute, they just that turnaround was a little weird. It's like he's like, can you do a song like that? And I was like, I can write a song like that. Like, but the challenge was there. So we're issuing all these little personal challenges as musicians to each other. So like that into it too. So I've been super busy. And the church I work for, they've been sending me stuff to record on because nobody's going to church right now. So they're doing all these virtual church services. I play on stuff for church. Like they'll send me tracks. I'll play on them 3 o'clock in the morning, send it back to them. And I'm good, you know. Like I'll listen to it.
Man.
I can lay something in that real quick. And I'll just go come out here, a studio kind of set up, and I'll just play on stuff and just send it back. So I've been having a ball, like just kind of like playing on other people's stuff and just create my own stuff too.
How long have you been doing the 6-string? Oh, hello. How's it going? Who's this?
That's my son. That's Kevin. Come say what's up, man. This is the drummer. This is the drummer in the house.
Oh yeah? Amazing. You play drums?
Come on, you gotta come talk real quick. He's gonna show you his drum now.
Oh, nice. Is that a snare? Cool.
Yeah. You gotta go upstairs. Let me finish this. I'll come up there in a second. Go ahead. Hey, don't play drums when I'm talking. Yeah. Go ahead. Put that. You said you see. You said how long I've been playing 6-string?
Yeah. How did you come around to play? Was there somebody that inspired you to play 6-string?
Yeah. The guy who taught me, Yusef Chisholm, is a bass player here. He actually gave me my first. It's over there. He gave me my first 6-string. I was in college. I was playing a 5-string fretless, primarily through my senior year of high school to like my second year of college, and I was studying with a guitarist at the school. My private instruction was with a guitarist, a cat named Sam Dorsey, and I remember going to one of my lessons and him just being like, "There's nothing I can really show you on bass because I don't play bass." I was like, "What the fuck am I sitting here for then? Like, this is pointless." He's like, "But I can show you some really cool stuff to do, like guitar techniques to apply on bass." So that's how I kind of started getting into like the chordal stuff and doing all that stuff. And then I remember I came home from like a semester of school, and I used to always go and just meet up with, we called them Chiz. I would go meet up with Chiz and be like, "Oh, look at what I learned." And he's like, "Oh, that's cute." He always be like, "Oh, that's nice. That's nice, but can you do this?" And I spent my whole summer like, did one chord and just shut down my whole life. And then, so I think he realized that I was kind of gravitating towards like more chordal like approaches to playing. So I went to his house one day. He was like, we gotta talk. Like, what are you trying to do? Like, what voice are you trying to? I was like, I'm just trying to be my most authentic self. Like, I'm just trying to figure out where my voice is, and I don't feel like I'm getting that with the lack of strings. Like I feel like having more strings kind of gave you more opportunities to speak, Mm-hmm. And I remember watching this interview with Anthony Jackson from like the 80s, something like that. He was like, when he was talking about when he first had his signature 6-string, he was like, "Guitar players have 6 strings. Why don't we have 6 strings?" I was like, dang. So I got my first 6-string probably like 2000, like in 2000. So it's been 20 years since I've been playing 6-string.
Oh wow!
And I haven't really gone back to like, because even when I pick up a 4-string or a 5-string, I find myself thinking 6, like, and it's like it almost becomes like a handicap. It's like I can play 4 and I can play 5, but I'm my most authentic self at 6, because then I can naturally do all the stuff that I'm thinking in my head, because I'm not just thinking, "Oh, I'm playing bass." I'm thinking, "Oh, we're creating music. I'm creating a song." So I need to be able to jump from doing chordal stuff to playing bass parts, or playing little lines here and there. Like I try to implement a lot of that into my playing, just like any concept or idea that I have while I'm playing. I try to implement it so that it's not in the way, that it's very musical, but it also is me, So, and then I realized like how it works. Like when I know it's working is when other people pick up those lines and they start to embellish those lines in music that we didn't either we're creating on the spot, or we're taking a cover song and I just heard something else. I'll play the line, and then I know it worked when I hear keyboard player play the line, or I hear the drummer play the line. I'm like, "Oh, this is going here. We're going left now. We're basically we're painting on a canvas at this point." And I feel like as a primarily a 6-string player, I have the wherewithal on the fretboard to be able to do that. Not saying I couldn't do it on a 5 or 6 or 4.
Sure.
I prefer 6 at this point. I toyed around with going to 8, and I was like,
"Whoa!"
I played an 8-string for a while. I played a 9-string Warrior bass for a little bit, and it didn't feel like a monster, but it also felt like you would have to do a lot of looking at your left hand at some point just to figure out where you are. Yeah. I'm like, and I toyed around going to 8, but then I was like, I'm never going to play it out. I don't play in the type of musical settings that would require me to have like high F to low F sharp. I don't play that type of music. I'm playing hip hop, R&B stuff, like, and some fusion jazz here and there, but like nothing's going to really require me to play that scale. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
And 6 has been like home for me. So I've been, just trying to fine tune that.
Can you show us that latest one you got there?
Yeah.
The Kiesel?
It's still plugged up. I was using it earlier. It's the Kiesel.
Oh, nice. Oh, it's looking good.
Man, listen, I use this for most of the recordings in the house because it's so clean, dude. It's like the Zon. It's a great bass, but it's kind of noisy. It's super noisy with the pickups, and I haven't been able to figure that out. So I just I plug this in, no noise. I barely even have to tune it half the time. I just check the tunings, make sure it's straight. It barely moves. It's a joy to play, man. Like I sometimes I sit down here and it's like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm just like, like you've been down there since 8 p.m. I'm like, I just found something that I liked, and then I can kind of dig into it. So it's an amazing bass, man. Thank you again for even partner with it to let me use it.
Yeah, man, of course. I'm so happy that it's getting used so much. That's so exciting.
And
especially with all the music you're doing.
It has a different, like, even with the settings, like when I'm in a live setting, when we're doing the quarantine shows, I'll start with it a lot of times because it gives you such a different, like a vast scope on like tone. Like that mid sweep, it just like, it cuts through everything. And it's just like, all right, I use it with, I got pedals. I got all the all the Dunlop pedals. I got all those, and the chorus pedals, it has like this own thing. It's like, it feels like it sounds like me, but it also feels like anybody could sound like that. It's like, this is just a homepage. Like everybody can come visit it, but then you can add yourself to it. That's just
right.
So, it's super cool, man. Like, especially with me delving even deeper into like this pedal world now. Like now I'm trying to find like the most compact way to get all the sounds that I need to get. And it's traveling. It's a travel delight because the bag is half the size out. I never get stopped ever. Like
that's amazing.
Before getting on the plane, like you remember the story, like when we met up and you gave me this axe, they had lost my bass bag in New Orleans. So I was in LA without a bass. And then you showed up with this after I played the gig, man. I appreciate it too. Like I played a Warwick 6, and they had like a Fender 6. I never even touched the Fender. Like I picked it up and tuned it. I was like, this action's a little too high. I played the Warwick, and then I got through the gig with the Warwick, and then I got that call when I was going back to the airport to leave that they found my bass. So I'm walking through the airport with the bag for this, and the bass, the mono case, is like. I told one of the guys to hold my mono case just so I can see if I could just get on the plane without any hassle. No hassle.
Right.
He said it to me. He was just like, go through. And then when he walked through with the mono case, he was like, hey, wait a minute.
You got to check that bag.
Yeah. I was like, see, I get it, man. So just in terms of like overall comfort, like even working it into like my regimen or like working it into like basses that I use all the time, once I had it kind of set up. I got a guy, a guitar tech here. I had him take a look at it and kind of like adjust the action a little bit. Mm-hmm. It felt like I was playing on nothing at some point. It's just like my hands, if you play for a while, your hands get fatigued. You can kind of muscle through it. But like I don't have any issues with this axe, man. It's a joy.
Oh, that's so cool to hear, man.
Yeah, man.
Well, I appreciate you sharing all these stories with me and having a nice open, dialogue conversation, Dennis. It's a joy to hear from you and to see your face, and it's just been a while.
It's been a minute. That was like last summer, right?
Yeah. It's going into last summer.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Like, and I always say, man, every time I've gone out and like I'm getting ready for tour, I've been prepping for tours, or like, and when I'm out on tour, people always they see my pedal setups and I'm like, yo, man, my dude, my guy, he hooked me up. Like, I was like, you don't really find too many people that you don't know that from the moment you meet them, they just are rooting for you. Like you started when you said you started this podcast. It's like, I felt that from day one. Like the first day we met, it was like every time I said something, I mentioned a name. Like I got an email from that company. I got, it's like, that's crazy. Like, and I was like, this guy must have like extreme faith in me. Like, it's like, before you got connected initially, it's like, but once we got connected and you like, I felt like you appreciated the work that I was trying to do. And I've always been grateful and thankful for that, man. So thank you. I appreciate everything, man. Like, I'm always singing your praises, man. You can ask any of my friends, like, especially Olivier. Olivier knows for sure.
Oh, I love Olivier. I'm going to have to do a pod with Olivier because I love that dude.
He's a grade school teacher right now, too, in Berlin.
Oh, yeah?
He's just sitting at home, like, with his kids, like, I don't know what to do. It's like, he had a record come out in March. His record came out in March, and I played on his record. Yeah, it's a dope record. I'll send you the link for it, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, please.
It's so crazy because, like, I played on all the songs on the record, and when I heard the playback, I didn't even know it was me. Like, because, you play on it, and then you leave away from it, and, like, you hear, like, little lines here and there. Like, I heard this one little line that I always do on everything. And I was like, but I didn't play on that record. So I had to call him and ask him. I was like, yo, was that me? He's like, yo, you played on the whole album, bro. I was like, okay, I'll post about it now since I'm on the whole record. I wasn't going to post it before, but now since I'm on the whole record, I'll post about it. No,
man, I love that you're that busy, dude, because like that's the dream, is to be that busy to where you're just, you know what, I'm not precious about this. I'm just putting out stuff. I'm working on projects, and you have so many irons in the fire that when they come back around, you're like, what was that me?
Yeah. I've been blessed, man. Glory be to God. I've been blessed with being able to stay afloat and throughout, just like, not even the pandemic, just in music. It's not often that we get to do what we love as a profession, and when I teach a class on like Wednesdays here for a program in the city, because I always want to feel like I'm giving back, because the guy who taught me, Yusef Chisholm and Kenneth Dickinson, that was my first band director. I can't go without shouting him out. But Mr. Chisholm, or Chiz in particular, he was super crucial, because when I got to high school, I didn't have a band teacher. Like when I got there, my schedule said band, and the teacher's name was to be announced. They didn't even have one. And then I walked in, and he was sitting there, and I had him the year before in junior high school. So I felt like that was God's divine intervention, because I was supposed to go to another high school. I wasn't supposed to go to the high school I went to, and I just happened to walk into this band room, and the teacher I was with a year prior was sitting there. And when he saw me, he was like, I'm going to build a program around you. And I was like, what is that? And like, literally, I sat with a bass player every day for 3 years. Every day. And I would just sit there, I'd be working through stuff, and he'd be like, no, don't do it like that. I had like this personal tutor. It was like, not to nerd out, but like Star Wars, like you had like, I was his Padawan. Like he was just kind of walking me through everything. And like, he always used to be like, there's no wrong way to do it, but there's a way you want to get to the end without as many stripes on you. Like you want to get to the end without having to do as much work, like work smarter, not harder, and a lot of that is how I approach playing with the technique, like being able to use like the one finger per fret on your left hand and get a lot of notes without a lot of work, like, and you see me play, I play pretty fast for no reason sometimes. And it's like, but a lot of that was because I worked at watching him play. And I used to look at his hands. I'm like, his hand was like a spider. Like his left hand just like this. I'm like, how is he doing that? And he's like, I'm working smarter, not harder. Like I spend time fine tuning my technique. And so it was like, had to have that tutelage for 3 years in high school, and then to go into college and have further tutelage. And like I marched in the marching band at Norfolk State University. I played trombone, the marching band, and to have that sense of discipline, like, cause you know, I was a scholarship student. So if I didn't do my job, I got kicked out of school. Like I was on that line of like, my scholarship paid for my schooling. And so I had to do the work, you know, and to have that type of discipline implemented or instilled in me and just apply it to this instrument. Because I didn't learn marching, I didn't learn bass in college. I got all that in high school, but I was able to apply the tools from college marching band to my professional career. So that's what I teach. You know, when I go out and teach people, I'm like, look, there's do's and don'ts. It's certain do's and don'ts you do. First thing is be on time, be consistent, be polite, and know your music. You'll work forever. With those 4 things, you'll work forever. You know what I'm saying? Mostly being polite, because most people can play, but they're assholes. So it's like, a lot of people are assholes. Like, nobody wants to work on an asshole. So it's like, I try to be the nicest dude on the gig. I also try to be the most informed and the one who does the most homework, which is, I think, why I usually get picked to be people's musical director at the end of the day, because I know more about the music than everybody else, you know, so I know how to get in and out of stuff, you know, so. Well,
and speaking of that, I want to ask you, can you share with us how you got the Chappelle gig and how it was working with Dave? Because I mean, he's the ultimate icon of our time in a lot of ways. For being the guy that turned away all that money and stepped away from something that was, you know, that 9/10 of other human beings would not have stepped away from, you know, because it showed integrity in a way that like most humans just don't have the capacity to do. And then he's come back in a way that is I mean, he came right back and was like, okay, just in case you forgot, I'm the baddest that ever, you know?
Yeah.
So maybe you can share a little bit about how you got that gig and how it has been able to work with him.
Yeah. So when Dave was gone, I was working. I still work with Fred. Fred and Dave are like really good friends. Fred shoots photography for Dave at times, and he'll do like some film stuff. But he also runs his juke joint bands. So the whole point of like when Dave said he wanted to put a band together, he contacted Fred. Fred contacted like his DC band basically. So the first time we ever did a show, it had to be at the House of Blues. I never forget it. We were at Martha's Vineyard doing the jazz festival at Martha's Vineyard. It was just me and Fred. Like we had to hire another band. They had a house band, and I just kind of had to teach the house band Fred stuff. And then we were in Martha's Vineyard for like 4 days. On the day we were leaving, at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, they're like, "Yeah, we're going to Chicago." We were supposed to be going back to DC. He's like, "We're going to Chicago. Do you know anybody, musicians in Chicago?" I was like, "No." Like I know a couple cats, but I don't know. I'm not from Chicago. I just called I reached out to my contacts. I need to keep on playing. They flew me and Fred out, and they flew Biscuit from DC. And they were just like, Dave is going to do a set. They're going to announce it at 3 o'clock that he's selling tickets for this show. And then we're just going to see what happens. 3 o'clock, tickets sold out in 15 minutes. So we get to and I had met Dave a couple times before that because he came, like every time we did a show in Ohio, he lives in Ohio, so he would ride his bike to the shows and come hang out. And super cool guy. And we were staying, ironically, at the Trump Hotel in Chicago at this time.
What?
This is like 2014. So this is before all the
Okay.
So we're there, and I remember Fred had to go do something with his wife Carla, so they told me to go check into the hotel. I'm by myself in Chicago. I go check into the hotel. I'm coming out to go to sound check, and Dave is coming into the same hotel because we're staying in the same hotel room. Like, and it's not like a normal hotel room. It's like the suite. So
right.
When I opened the door, I was like, "What the? Like, this is the wrong room. Like, the TVs in the bathroom has a TV in the mirror. I'm like, what the? It's a chef. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I just kind of I'm in the wrong room. My friend was like, no. We're all staying in the same room. Just go into the other room. Don't go into Dave's space. Go into this other space. I was like, all right, cool. And so I made a beeline to go out, and I bump into him coming out of the hotel room, and he says, "Hey, Dennis, what's going on?" I'm like, he knows my name. Like I've only talked to the dude like twice. And he's like, "Hey, I'm looking forward to doing a show tonight." And then he goes on about his business. I go to sound check. We sound checked, and one of the craziest things about that night was he was doing like 15 minutes of stand-up, but he was on stage for like 3 hours. So he had like 15 minutes of material worked out, and then he would just talk to people for 3 hours or however long. So the first set went over cool, and the second set, me and Biscuit were backstage, and then J. Cole's band was playing Lollapalooza in Chicago that same time. I'm friends with the guitar player and the keyboard player, Ron Gilmore. So they hit me. They was like, Dave invited J. Cole to come to the second set. Can you get us in? I was like, yeah, y'all can just come into the back. It's fine. Everybody just come in, So they come to the second set. They're all sitting backstage, kind of like, it's like a powwow happening backstage before the second set. And me and Biscuit are off to the side, and we run off. Whoever was the opener for Dave, so he was doing 15, 20 minutes, and the show started at like midnight. So it was like Leon Rogers, 12 to 12:20, Dave Chappelle, 12:45, until he's finished. I'm like, what do you mean till he's finished? He's like, our curfew was like 5 a.m. So it's until he's finished. He was on stage from 12:45 to 5 a.m.
What?
And nobody left. Like he was just, and I can't make it up. He did 15 minutes of stand up, and then he just talked for 4 hours. And he was asking the audience questions and made jokes out of everything. And he's like, you watch somebody's comedic timing that perfect. It was perfect. Like you couldn't catch him off guard or anything. So it's always been that type of experience, because when we do the juke joints, we don't know what's happening a lot of times. Like we'll get the call to do them, and then we kind of show up, and they were like, okay, we might play this, or we might play that. There's a DJ there, so we play off the DJ a lot of times, but we never really know what's happening. There's no real script, and then David get on stage and say, play this, and you're like, oh, okay, we got to play this now, So it's. I always say that, like, working with Fred, he's one of my closest friends, right? And he's a talented musician. He toured with Prince, he toured with Stevie. I'm the calm to his chaos, because he works in chaos. Chaos is like his thing. I need a little bit of structure, so I set the structure tone for him, like in any environment. Like he says I translate French for him because he's French. So he's like, I'm his French translator with any band to work with, because he speaks perfect English, but like people don't always understand what he's trying to get to. I get it immediately. So I'm like, okay, this is where he's trying to go. And a lot of times when I'm dictating where he wants to go, I'm doing it through the instrument. So I'm not even talking to people. I'm just playing what I know he wants to hear. So I'm kind of like leading the band by playing these phrases or playing these things. And it's the same thing in those settings because Dave doesn't really care what we play. He has like his staples. Like I'll Take You There is a staple. He loves hip hop. So anything hip hop, like Tribe Called Quest, you play any Jay Dilla stuff, he'll jump on that stuff and he'll get hype about it. And he has like classic songs that he likes. My son. So he has like all these things that like we know that we play him. And you'll see a light go off on him in his head, and he's like, oh, okay, y'all play my gents. And every once in a while he'll come up there and he'll make a request. But most of it's like a jam session. So we just kind of have to like have like this library of songs that we can pull from. And then if you got the right players in place, it doesn't really matter. You can call anything with the right players in place, and they'll make it magical. So the last one we did was when he won the Mark Twain Award for comedy here in DC. And we joke about it, but we started at like 11 and I got home at like 7 a.m. because we were just there. And like we were playing, and we were playing the whole time, but like you had like the who's who, like Erykah Badu was there, Mos Def was there, Thundercat was there, all the comedians that were at the actual Kennedy Center were there, and they came on stage. Like Tiffany Haddish, Aziz Ansari, Michael Che, Colin Jost, they were all there. Kenan Thompson, they were all just in the building. Quincy Jones was there, and everybody was just kind of like hanging out. And we're just playing, and then people just getting on. Like towards like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, the artists that were there just started hopping on stage and just doing stuff. Like Erykah Badu did like a 30-minute set. Common was there. He came and rocked with Erykah. We just like, what's happening, yo? Like, but it's that vibe. People want to be around Dave, and they want to be in the room with him. So
yeah,
when they get into the room, they realize how special a moment it is because nobody has their phone. You can't have your phone out because they take people's phones. So it's like you're just in that moment. And it becomes like a really magical thing when you just have that moment that you can talk about because nobody can film it. So everybody just talks like, you should have been there, man. You should have. I've done like 10 of them now. So it's like every time it's like, yo, I'm sorry you missed it, bro. Like, I'm sorry you missed it. You should have been there. I called you. I know it was like 2:00 in the morning, but you should have been there. You should have answered your phone. You know what I'm saying? So it's been a magical thing, man. It's a super magical experience. And I think it kind of keeps you on your toes too musically because you don't know what to expect, you know, and I kind of pride myself on being able to be in both worlds of like script and non-script, you know, like to be able to like, we call it pick a key when you just like get on stage and somebody just says we playing in E flat and then y'all just kind of create. Nobody knows who's doing what. It's just like we know what key we're in and we'll just see what happens when we get to the end of the road. And then it becomes like this magical thing. So to also be able to read music and like chart out stuff and like actually follow a script, like to have the best of both worlds is something that I kind of pride myself on as a musician, professional for sure. So.
That's amazing. I got to go see Dave with John Mayer that one time in SF, and when they had the Controlled Danger show, and I have to say, reflecting on that, really gave me that much more respect for Dave in that he created an environment that was kind of old school, okay, because it was like nobody had their cell phones, everybody had to talk, you know, and like so, and everybody tried to get there early to like get those first couple of seats that are around the seated seats, and so there's X amount of people, so everybody got there early and then got their phones taken away, so they're all hanging around for an hour before the show with no phones. You look around and everybody's got to be like communal and interested in each other, and then it kept it really clear and like it kept people present during the show because nobody can check out during the show, and it kept his material safe.
Exactly.
Right? So that whole combination, and also, I mean, what you're describing, I love that it keeps the musicians in a place of the now too, because they're like, oh, hey, E flat, okay, cool. Then you're stuck listening.
Yeah, you
instead
have to
of
else. Yeah.
Instead of coming from like, oh, I already know what we're doing, and you can check. Then you don't go into your normal pattern, and you check out a little bit. Exactly. You know, where it keeps the vibe very much here and now, very much awake. You got to stay awake for this.
Yeah, and everybody has to stay awake because you might miss something. Like everybody has to stay awake. Like not just the people on stage, but the people in the audience have to stay awake because, the bit about talking and having conversations in that setting is because everybody, you never know who you're gonna meet. You just might walk up on like I had Stevie Wonder's bass player walk up on me one time, and like he was like, "Yo, man, I heard a lot about you," and I was like. Like, nah, wait a minute, what? He's like, yeah, man, you know. And then he actually played one of my basses that night. But the strap was too tight. So he was like trying to figure it out. I was like, he's a bigger guy. But I was like, that's kind of crazy. Like, I said, hey, nice to meet you. And he was like, I know about you. I'm like, how, bro? Okay, that's flattering. I appreciate it. But like, I don't know. But he was like, no. He started listing off stuff. And I was like, you never know. And if I had my phone, I'd have been on my phone waiting to play it. You know, like just looking at something, not like walking around the room kind of scoping the land. And that's what that environment creates. Is like you have to go scope the land out because you never know. And it's always like, it's never been a bad experience. It's always been like you kind of feel like this euphoric, like I was in that space. You know, it's like we used to, at the club here, Bohemian Caverns, before they closed down, they used to do these midnight shows where like they knew an artist was coming into town. They would invite them to come and hang out after hours. The club was closed, but they would still keep the staff there and keep it open. And then they would bring a band in, which I was a part of a lot of times. You had a window, 12 to 12:30 to get in there, 12:30 to lock the doors. And whatever happened in that space. And Dave has kind of like recreated that sense of like a speakeasy. And it's very speakeasy. It's a speakeasy vibe. But it's also super inviting in the sense that like once you're in the room, anything can happen. It's all magical because it's all geared from positivity. It's all like, hey man, just be in this moment and have a good time in this moment. And then, don't worry about your phone. You get your phone back at the end. When you get your phone back, then you can talk about it. But like everybody who's not there is going to want to be there the next time. You're creating this demand. Like he's creating his own demand, So it's super cool to watch.
I'm super in awe of that, and I think it up levels my whole perception. I mean, Dave could just do what he's been doing recently, and I'd still be like, "Yo, he's the dopest." But for him to, and I don't know, I can only assume because he's such a smart and intelligent guy. I can only assume that there's a definite. It's not just about keeping his material safe; that it is about this container, right? Keeping this container. And because he's a part of the crew that grew up before these phones were the normal, right? And before this capturing of every moment and trying to get a selfie with every, all these different environments. It's kind of like this. There's an enlightenment about it for this age to take the phone away, to take that visceral, connection to the cloud. And put it back into the now, into the moment, so that you are like, you got nothing else to do. Well, I'm just going to, this conversation led to that conversation, led to meeting this person, lead to that person. And the whole time I felt like when I was watching him and John Mayer riff off of each other, I got to know that John Mayer is actually pretty funny.
Right.
I didn't really capture that until that show. And I was like, oh, he could almost run his own comedy show all by himself. And that was cool. But just seeing Dave interact with people, he did some of that stuff where unscripted, like somebody would yell something out and he'd be like, "Oh, really? Oh, you think so? Well, this is what's going on with that, and this is what's up." And he was like, shut it down. You're like, oh my God, this is so good, and it can't be recreated or reproduced.
Yeah, it's just that moment. It's just that moment.
Right, right now.
It's super interesting because like in those juke joints, the ones that I've been a part of, he's not doing a bunch of material. Like he's not standing there doing stand up. He gets on the mic. He thanks everybody for coming. He kind of sets the groundwork for the rules. Like, be in the moment. Like he says, he's like, be in the moment. Like this is a moment in time. Like you'll be able to talk about when you with your grandkids. So just be in that space. And then he'll just you'll see him disappear. And then like 20 minutes later, he'll come back. He'll yell something on the mic. He'll disappear again. It's one of those things where like he's kind of like curating the space for the space to just be that space. You don't need him on stage the whole time telling people what to do. He's giving you the opportunity to kind of like create your own storyline at that point, And then he comes back and just checks in every once in a blue moon. And then he'll definitely get up there and he'll say some funny stuff and he'll get up, he'll say something. But it's not like he's being pressured to like actually perform. He just wants to create the space for people to just kind of be in that setting and like have a good time. So it's hats off to him for that because it's super hard to like be in a space where you are touted as a comedian and people want to hear you get up there and do your stuff. And he's like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna give the space to somebody else. Like I'm creating the platform for other people to shine, And then when you hear about it through word of mouth. So like that word of mouth piece becomes like, yo, I got next time, like every time I get people to call me all the time, just like, yo, next time they doing something, make sure you hit me. Oh yeah, I got you. But I never know. I'll get a call. Like I got a call one time. This was super crazy. I got a call from Fred one time, and I missed it. I missed the opportunity. Like he called me and was like, I missed the voicemail. I was at a gig and I checked it afterwards and I called him. I was like, yo, what's going on? He's like, oh, you missed it. And I was like, missed what? He's like, Quincy Jones was having his birthday party. So-and-so. It was like 20 people there. I called you, but you answered the phone. I was like, oh. He's like, don't worry about it because it'll probably happen again sometime. I was like, all right, I appreciate you for calling me. The next day, he calls me and was like, yo, what you doing tonight? I was like, I got a gig. He's like, can you get out of it? I was like, yep. I was like, I call one of my guys that subs for me. I was like, where you need me to be? He's like, I need you to be here at 10 o'clock. Don't be late. Be here at 10 o'clock. I showed up at 9:30. I was like, and I walk in, and Quincy Jones is sitting there with like 10 people at a restaurant that they closed down for Quincy Jones. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, he's like, be cool, I'm coming. But he was at the Verizon Center in DC with Stevie Wonder. They were doing the Songs of the Key of Life tour. So he was like, I'll be there in like 30 minutes. Just kind of hang out. So I'm like, all right. So me and the other keyboard player sitting there, and Fred walks in, and he's like, yo, we need to play like 2 songs for his birthday. All right, whatever, we play 2 songs. They're not even paying us any mind. And then they say, okay, go have a seat at the table. like, we don't have to leave? They're like, no, go have a seat at the table, it's cool. Like, just have a good time. I wound up talking to Quincy Jones for like 2.5 hours about music.
Whoa.
It was like, hey man, thanks for playing. What's your name? And Dennis, I'm from the area. He's like, oh, how'd you get into music? 2 hours later, we're going back and forth about the state of music. And I'm like, and then when I left there, I got in my car and I was like, I just sat with Quincy Jones for 2.5 hours talking about music, you know. And you know, he was his most genuine self. I wouldn't have had the opportunity if I wasn't open to it, you know. So it's all about being open. It goes back to the whole thing, like being open, man, and just being a genuine person. Like, you know, if I was an asshole, Fred wouldn't have called me to come do that, you know, because it's like I'm representing him at that point. You know, you want the people to best represent what you represent, to kind of stand in for you when you're not there. So,
right.
I've been blessed. I've been blessed musically to be able to travel the world and see all the stuff I've been able to see, man, and do the things I've been able to do. And I don't take any of it for granted, man. I'm always appreciative, you know. It's a beautiful thing to be in a space where you can play a room of like 5 or 50,000 or whatever, and you get the same feeling just because people appreciate what you're doing, you know. So, yeah,
man. It's so good to hear. I love that story, and man, thank you for sharing so much today. You've shared so much, and it's really great to connect with you in this way and catch up and hear about where you come from and how things are going. And I'm gonna wrap it up, but I wanted to say, like, you know, dude, I can't wait to hear the new Oddisee record and anything you're doing with Fred. I'm excited for that. And man, tell Jesse, dude, get it together. Like, been waiting for a record.
Dude, I talked to Jesse last week, and Jesse called me on FaceTime, and he just looked at me for like 30 seconds. And I was like, dude, what's up? He was like, I'm not playing no shows. I was like, what? I was like, you talk. And so we had a conversation, and I kind of like walked him back a little bit. I was like, dude, it's going to happen. Like, it's going to happen. You just have to be ready for when it happens, you know. But, you know, people they kind of get their own way when they get kind of down. And he's not like a depressed dude at all. You know him. He's not that dude. He wants to get out and like make an impact. And I'm like, it's going to happen. You know, we just got to be patient and like wait it out, you know. And he's funny. He's one of the funniest guys I know, like in terms of like just his personality. So it's like, I got where he was coming from, but like, I'm like, dude, I'm working, bro. Like, he's like, what you doing? I'm like, I'm working. Like, I'm working. Like, you need something, send it to me. I'll lay it to you, send it back to you in 15 minutes. You'll have it. It's fine. Like, I'm that productive. I'm trying to get stuff out. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's only because I've been able to work with the people I've been working with, and I'm able to, you know, move as fast and do the stuff that I kind of want to do at this point, you know? So I've been blessed, man. So, and thanks to you, man, you know, because, you know, half the stuff, you know, I wouldn't be able to do, like, in terms of, like, even identifying my own sound without your help, you know? Like, being able to, like, switch out pedals here and there, like, oh, this ain't working. Let's try this configuration, you know, like, or, you know, even with this, man, like, this, it's been a blessing to, like, be able to, like, search for your sound and then find it through the help of other people, man. So I appreciate it, man. Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome, man. It's my pleasure, dude. I always do my best to lift you up, you know.
Appreciate it, man.
I want to see you succeed.
Yeah, we got to get up. When it's all over, we're going to get up, man. We're going to get up.
Of course. Yeah. I can't wait. I can't wait to see you again and the whole Good Company band, too.
Dude, you know what? When it actually happens again, because last time we saw each other was at the Parliament show, when we did the cold thing with the Parliament. I'm the musical director for Garrett Scheider now, Gary Scheider's son.
That's right.
So we were supposed to do a show before all this happened, but he's supposed to be doing some type of tour next year. So when that happens, dude, like that's one of the one of the more fun gigs I've had in the last, like the ones I picked up recently. Playing that P-Funk stuff,
yeah,
man, it's such a blast, man. Like to be able to kind of put a spin on it. Like I did the Impressions band stuff for a while. I was playing with the Impressions for a little bit, and while it's kind of structured, like it's all Curtis Mayfield's, stuff, but they allowed you to put your little spin on it here and there. They didn't really care, but to play the P-Funk stuff and like, oh, we flipping the P-Funk stuff, it's like, yo.
Yeah.
Because that stuff is so funky, man. It's
is.
It's such a crazy, crazy piece to be in, like to be a part of all these different bands and like to watch them kind of work themselves, like everything has its own lane. And I'm able to like kind of switch lanes based on, playing, and so I'm appreciative, man. Thank you again.
Of course, man.
That's the podcast too, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, man, thanks again. And let's talk again. Let's keep in touch and let's talk again real soon.
Sure, man. All right, man. Looking forward to it.